Hello, what's up guys, Medium Guy here, and in this video we're going to see how SSH brute forcing actually works and how you can implement it with some simple steps. Disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only, and the actual purpose is just to see how SSH brute forcing actually works. So indeed, by seeing how the SSH brute forcing actually works, we can then implement some mechanisms to actually defend against these kinds of attacks. Also, I've got a video about implementing a honeypot which actually traps the attackers in some isolated environments, and by implementing your honeypot you can actually see which clients actually make SSH connections and what things they actually try to do in your servers. So if you want to learn more about that, I've got the link down below. If you're interested, you can give a visit. So that's enough talking and let's get down to work. So as you can see right over here, SSH brute forcing can happen in two different ways. So in the first method, you actually know the address of the server that you want to make your brute force attack, and in this case you will actually have a password list, and your script or bot or whatever will try to use that password list in order to guess the correct password for the destination server. So as you can see, in this case we have only one destination server with multiple passwords, and right over here you can see that in the method 2, instead of the password list, we have some server list, and actually we have some static credentials. Like for example, the root username and root password might be set by default in many servers, and in this case setting the username and password as the root and checking for multiple servers, you might actually come up with a server that is using the root as the username and password. So in this case we have multiple servers and static credentials. So in this video we're actually going to test and implement the first method, in which I've got an SSH server in some address and I've got a password list, and using a script I'll try to actually guess the correct password for that server. So with having all these in mind, I'll move to the VS Code right over here, and as you can see I've got some files already prepared in order to show how all this thing will work. So I'll move to the attack.sh file right over here, and by the way I'll put all these files and configurations in my GitHub repository, for which you can find the relevant link down in the description section of this video. So right over here, as you can see, I'm trying to use the SSH pass command, and right over here I'll check that if it is not already installed, I'll just go ahead and install this, as it is the dependency for this script to be able to execute. So actually SSH pass is a command that you can provide your password with the SSH command when you want to connect to your SSH server, and doing so we can actually try different passwords with a static username and a static SSH server address, and eventually and hopefully try to guess the correct password for our SSH server. So moving down right over here, I'm actually setting the username statically plus the host again statically, and these two will actually be the same for each repeat of the password that I have in my password list .txt file right over here. So this password txt file is just a simple text file having a password on each row, and actually I'll try to define in my script to look for each line in this file and grab it as the password and try to connect to the SSH server that I defined right over here. So I'll move down, and right over here I'll actually check if the password list file exists, and if not I'll just throw an error and exit out of the execution, and right over here I'll try to read each line of the password file and grab it as the variable password using the SSH pass command. I'll provide the grab password from the current line from the password list file as the password for my SSH pass command, and right over here simply try to make an SSH connection using the SSH command on the defined port, which I've set to 22, which is the default port for the SSH server. And actually you can define your SSH server's port right over here. Basically, if you want to make a brute force attack to your destination SSH server, you will surely know on which port the SSH server is listening on. So by passing the -O switch, I'm setting the static host key checking to no, and actually this will skip the host key verification of the SSH server. And actually, if you don't pass this option to the SSH command, it will just ask for a confirmation to accept the fingerprint of the SSH server, and the execution will be stopped right in that point. And right over here, I'm just passing the username and the host that we defined up above, and simply I'll just run a ls command inside that SSH server if the connection is made successfully. Right over here, I'll check that if the previous command execution has been executed successfully, so then I'll just make sure that the connection to that SSH server has been made successfully, and actually the password for that SSH server has been found. So I'll just try to echo the username, password, and host to a text file and exit out of the execution. Also, as you can see right over here, before making any SSH connection, I'm actually checking the text file that I actually store the found username and password, and if it exists, I'll just again know that the password has been guessed, and again will exit the execution. So this is the whole logic that I have implemented in order to implement a very simple brute force attack, and the whole purpose is just to simulate an attack in our infrastructure, and using some mechanisms like implementing honeypots in our exposed SSH servers, we can actually test our defending systems that they are working correctly or not, or any other use cases that you might want to simulate an SSH brute force attack and check for things that you have implemented correctly or just need some modifications in your infrastructure. I'll move to the terminal right here. I'll hit ls to make sure I'm in the exact same directory that I've got my attack.sh file, and simply by saying bash attack.sh, so the thing that is happening right now, as we can see right over here, is that the script is trying to make an SSH connection using each password that I have defined in the password list text file, and you can see that the first and second execution has been errored with the permission denied, and the third password has actually worked, and as you can see, it successfully exited the execution. If I hit ls again, you can see that the haunted.txt file has been created right over here, and if I cat that file, we can see that the username, password, and the host has been saved in this exact file. So if I run the attack.sh file again, you can see that it prevents the execution because the haunted.txt file already exists, and actually the password for that host is already guessed. So lastly, I'll try to make an SSH connection to this host using the guessed password in order to see if it is actually working or not. So I'll say SSH test @lab. I'll hit enter, and provided with the incorrect password that I have in the first line, I'll hit enter, and you can see that I get the permission denied error. So now I'll try to copy the guessed password. I'll paste it right over here, and you can see that I can successfully make an SSH connection to that server, and it actually guessed correctly. So that's all for this video. I hope you'll learn something new in this file. So if you haven't watched my honeypot implementation video, I'll link the video down in the description section of this video, and in that you can actually learn how you can defend against these kinds of attacks and actually trap your attackers in an isolated environment, specifically in a Docker container, which is totally isolated from your operating system, and it is, in my mind, the safest method to implement your honeypot services. So if you found the video useful, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to my channel, which will help grow the channel and motivate me to create more free contents like this. And with that, that's all for this video, and I hope to see you in the next videos.